can you kind of lift the lid a little bit on what that was really like meeting UK ministers, the likes of Michael Gove, for example?
Oh,
these kind of guys.
Yeah, it got worse. Put it that way. I mean, I thought it was pretty bad when we started because we hadn't voted for Brexit. It was an anathema. I've been a strong, profound pro-European all my political life. I remain so. I think the EU is where we should be. It was a hell of a shock to the system, and grappling and engaging with people who appeared to think this was a good idea, was difficult. And I did a long interview for the UK and a Changing Europe academic project some time ago, and I tried to explain to them that you had to do this twin track. One thing was you had to keep expressing your opposition and working to try and get the decision overturned. Equally, you had to recognise that if it wasn't overturned, you had to protect things in Scotland that needed protected. So it was always that juggling act, and you had to do that the whole time. But actually, you were dealing, first of all, with people in the first iteration of the May government. You were dealing with people who hadn't a clue what they'd got themselves into and had no idea how to take this forward. And it just was a mess. And I think as they sank into the first year of it, it just became a complete mess. I mean, Mark Drakeford, the Welsh First Minister, was my opposite number for the first 2.5 years. And, he and I just used to sit shaking our heads with astonishment. I mean, there was one meeting of the Joint Ministerial Committee when we arrived. There was no room. They had forgotten to book a room. There was nowhere in the House of Commons. He described it afterwards to Welsh Senate committee as being worse organised than the St Asaph's Community Council. It was just a complete mess. And nobody knew what was happening from one day to the next. Those were the good days. It got a lot worse because then the ideologues took over and they were hostile, really unpleasant in a sense. Yeah. They were just absolutely determined to do this, and it didn't matter. And it didn't matter who got in their way. They were just going to do it. And they weren't particularly nice people. And I look back with some fondness now to the days of David Davis and others, because at least you could have a conversation with them. By the last year, you were just dealing with people who it didn't matter what was said; they were going to lie about it a lot of the time. A good example is the Erasmus project. Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland all said, whatever happens, we need to hold on to Erasmus. They said, oh yes, of course, we need to hold on to Erasmus. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office did a value for money exercise, never told us what was in it, refused to take evidence, wouldn't explain it to us. Right through to the end, everybody was saying, oh yes, we're going to keep hold of Erasmus. At the same time, David Frost was negotiating it away. I don't think he had any intention of ever signing on to it. Ideologically, he was fixated with getting rid of everything. And it was that type of thing that you were putting up with. Now, from my position, I don't think we could ever do business with them. I think that we're in a position where the only reasonable and feasible step is independence, and we have to find a way of securing that. But I also recognise that they will be desperate to stop that happening. So we had better be very determined and absolutely principled, and we have got to get it right. Because if we don't get it right, they will take advantage of everything we get wrong, and that's what annoys me sometimes about some of the rhetoric I hear. People don't know what they're up against, and we really have to get this right.